JD Vance was just at the recent Turning Point USA event in Phoenix, Arizona. And he had a good speech. He said some good things. He said some things that I think people will appreciate. And one of those things is that white Americans and more broadly Western white people don't need to apologize for being white any longer, which is true. It just is. For the last 10, 15 years, white people have been demonized and vilified as the bane of society, which is just a lie, right? We need to be proud of our heritage, proud of our legacy, proud of what we built. And I think a lot of white people are quite frankly sick of it. They're done. They don't want to hear it anymore. So JD Vance is tapping into that. And then I want to play this Tim Walz clip, the governor of Somaliland in Minnesota there. Not too impressed with JD Vance. So we'll play that after. But let's go ahead and play this clip of Vance at Turning Point USA.
Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
True.
And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you're very much on our team.
So all true. Good speech. And, just as some context here, for millions of Americans, they've been told, whether that's explicitly or implicitly, that they should feel shameful for things that they've never done, born into a guilt that they've never chosen. And I want to be clear here, because you're going to hear what Tim Walz says. He brings up this whole white supremacist bullshit thing. And, JD Vance, he's not calling for supremacy. That's definitely not what he's saying here. He's simply rejecting the idea that any group of people owes a moral apology just for existing. And that's why this resonates so deeply with people. We know we're not bad. We haven't done anything wrong. And we're sick of being told that we're, evil, fill in the blank. So anyways, let's go ahead and play this Walz clip. And you can see what his reaction was to JD Vance. And this was actually his reaction to Vance, specifically speaking at Turning Point USA.
So, this is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy, when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life.
Bullshit. People have been apologizing for the last 15 years for being white.
And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors.
Yeah, Minnesota's not protecting anything. They're sure as hell not protecting anything that's American. Anyways, it just as a final closing remark, what Vance is saying, it's not about defending one group over another. It's about defending the principle that in a free society, no one is born owing anybody else an apology. It's your own life, make of it what you choose. No government gets to decide which identities are acceptable to defend. And that's the whole point behind it. That's why JD Vance said it. That's why it's so popular. That's why it's resonating with so many people. And hopefully that's the message that they take into 2028 in the next election.